The relationship of evangelism and apologetics, I think, of course, I'm a philosophy professor, and I think philosophy is important, but I think it's important to evangelism. And we think of it that way. People think, oh, you mean you have to use big words, you have to think really deep. But when I say philosophy is important to evangelism, I'm thinking about the ability to think rationally, to think logically, to ask questions about the structure of a sentence, the basis of a claim, to analyze a claim and consider the assumptions that may lie below the claim itself. So when I think about philosophy, we're thinking more about logical or critical thinking, being able to listen to somebody's argument and see, well, where's the weakness in the argument? Have they committed some fallacy, a formal or informal fallacy? Did they build their whole argument on what we call a straw person? It's a situation created to make a point. Or are there assumptions that underlying this person's views? Those could be value assumptions, that is, they think that the world ought to be a certain way, and so that assumption is in their argument. And a philosophy helps us to ask the right questions and to think through this, because we need to do a good analysis of the argument if we're going to give a reasonable response. So finding what is determining the direction of an argument. What evidence is given? Is it really evidence? Where did the evidence come from? Are you using statistics? And if so, where did statistics come from? And if you're using analogies, are they false analogies? Or are they good analogies? And probably most arguments will entertain some form of an analogy, either what we call, there are different types of analogies, but that they say, oh, this is like that. Well, maybe it is and maybe it's not. There are rules that have to play if you're going to accept that as an analogy. So that's what I mean when I say philosophy is important to evangelism, because evangelism is communicating the truth. And people have objections. Well, are the objections reasonable? Do the objections have real substance to them? And if so, they deserve a real answer. But if the objection is built on poor evidence, it's built on an illogical argument, irrational argument, then that's a different matter altogether.